What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Adam. It's hashtag homeless. Day 98. And chilling in the park. I got here an hour later than I normally do. And it's completely random. I never know what time I'm going to get here on whatever day. I don't even know what I'm going to do from one day to the next, but I'm waiting for the guy to come walk his dog. I haven't been here 10 minutes yet, but sometime during the video, if the guy with his dog shows up, I'm going to let you all know. So anyway, I stayed at the shelter for breakfast this morning, and that's the end of that. I'm not doing that again. That was too much this morning. There's some drama going on. I don't know. I'll talk about it. I don't know how I want to talk about it and what I actually want to say about it. But it has to do with, okay, number one, yesterday the video got demonetized before I even posted yesterday's video. So you're definitely going to want to check that out, because that means it must have been really good. YouTube doesn't want you to see it. They dropped my impressions off of a cliff. They absolutely do not want you to see the video that I posted yesterday. So I highly recommend going to check that out, because I'm not going to make a dime off of advertising for that video. And that's fine. It was the part 2 of the Synchronicity series. And I had a feeling that that was going to happen before I even recorded it yesterday. So if I start talking about the things that are going on now, it's going to be another day of no monetization and no impressions, and I'm probably going to tank the growth of my YouTube channel. So here we go. Yeah, so it all has to do with how people act ever since this COVID scam started. And somebody starts coughing, and there are certain people, it's not everybody, but there are certain people who go absolutely crazy now. You know, I'm in Western New York. I'm in New York State, and you still see people walking around with these stupid masks on their face. They've taken 10 or 15 shots with their boosters, and they're still obsessed with, this is what you in certain areas of the country, you are going to see this every day for the rest of your life. You are going to see these idiots walking around with the masks on their face. You're going to see this everywhere you go. Well, maybe not everywhere you go, because here's the way I'm going to put it. If you get out a map, there's a county by county map that exists for each election, especially a presidential election. And some counties are blue and some counties are red. And what you will see is that most of the United States is covered in red. And there's these little pockets of blue scattered throughout the country in all the big cities and congregations of where these Democrats live, in high population areas. And so what you're going to see is, if you're in one of these blue counties, take this map with you when you travel, because it's going to tell you right away where you don't want to go and where you want to be. If it's blue, drive on through. That's the way I'm putting it. Get one of those maps and use it as your travel guide. But if you're in one of these blue towns, you are never going to see an end to the idiotic things that people are doing. Somebody sneezes and 20 people around them start freaking out. It's no different than when you read in the Bible about how lepers were thrown out of town and not even allowed to come back into town, and how people would throw rocks at them, and it's ridiculous. I saw some things in the last couple of days that just makes me sick and pisses me off. And so I'm done. I'm not going to be around these people. I'm going to leave before breakfast. I think Saturdays, there's one day that I'll probably eat breakfast at the shelter, and that's Saturday, because this old lady, I'm not going to name names on the channel here, but this lady comes in and she serves a really good breakfast every Saturday morning to the folks. And we also have to do chores on Saturday. Everybody chips in to pick something that they can do. And, when you've got 20 people all chipping in to keep the place clean, you spend my chore, when I do it, you're talking like 15, 20 minutes of your week doing a chore. But if everybody does that, the place stays really clean. And it is a very clean place to be in terms of, like, they take pride in how clean they are. The state inspectors came in one day and said that this is the cleanest homeless shelter they had ever seen. And so, not a bad thing. Oh, man. So, yeah. So, anyway, Saturdays, I'll probably stick around. I'll eat breakfast. I'll do a couple chores. And then I'll get out the door. And the library doesn't open until 10 a.m. There's no reason for me to be in a hurry on a Saturday morning. And so, other than that, though, I'm out the door. I'm out before I'm going to wake up, get dressed, get ready to go, and go out the door. Technically, I'm allowed to stay up in that room that I'm in, I don't even have to go down to breakfast, and I don't have to leave until 9, and I could stay isolated up in that room if I wanted to, but nope, I'm going to get outside, get out the door, go do these videos, just do whatever I can do to be productive and to try and move the ball forward in life, because I don't want to be sitting there. I don't want any of this drama anymore. I just don't have it in me to sit there and deal with that. But overall, it's been pretty chill over the last couple of days in spite of that. But like I said, if you missed yesterday's video, you're definitely going to want to check it out. YouTube demonetized it. They're putting the smack down on my channel because of it. No impressions, no new subscribers. Everything just went through the floor because of that video. And I'm going to do this once in a while, just to mix it up. Today's video is going to be the same. I'm not, by the time I'm done, you'll see why. But the part 3 of the Synchronicity series, I'm not sure when I'm going to get that done. I got to put my thoughts together, put another batch of notes together, and just kind of write down every piece to the story that I want to talk about next. And that'll probably take me a few days. I don't know. So I made a playlist on my channel, a public playlist called the Synchronicity series. And so as I add videos to that series, part 1, part 2, and as I put part 3 and etc., it's going to go into that playlist. So if you wanted to watch the whole thing as one shot, you would be able to do it by going to that playlist. No matter where they show up in the timeline of the main videos on the timeline. So another thing that's going on here in Jamestown, they are going after the homeless with a vengeance here. They are really going to town. I just noticed a spot this morning on my way over here where there used to be people camping. They came in with a bulldozer and just tore that place to hell. They are going after the homeless with a vengeance here that I haven't seen since the first day I became homeless here in Jamestown. And according to a lot of people that are homeless and a lot of people who know this place, they are really going... It all boils back to that Supreme Court ruling where the Supreme Court said, go ahead, you can fuck with the homeless all you want. And so now Jamestown is on board and they're trying to drive everybody out of town. And so, whatever, they're just going to find another place to go. And it's just going to be this cat and mouse game, which is why my number one tip, even though I'm not living out in the woods in a tent right now, all I can tell you is that if that were me, if I ended up being in a position where I have to survive out in the woods and be homeless without being in a shelter and actually survive outside, you're never going to see me. You're never going to know where I am, and you're not going to know where my camp is. You're not going to see me out there. I'm not going to be right out in the open in a public park where the police can just show up and harass me. I'm going to be in a place where nobody knows I'm there. I already have these places picked out. There's a bunch. There's more. I mean, it would be easy to do. It just takes a little bit of common sense and just, look. There's places everywhere where you would be able to set up a camp and no one would ever know it's there. And as long as you're not, as long as there's not 50 other people around you hiding in the same spot, you're going to be all right. Oh, man, what's going on? Someone's coming over with a giant tractor of some kind. What is this? I might have to move. Oh, yeah, we're done. I'm going to have to go somewhere else. I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
I almost hit one of them earlier. They ran right into my bike almost.
All right, you got to see a little bit of nature this morning. Now, I shot the videos of the ducks and the deer on different days this week, but the ducks are about 150 feet away from me right now, from where I'm sitting right now, and the deer were over in that area where they're mowing the lawn right now, the place where that bench is that I was sitting before. And the ducks, that's kind of a cool little, weird little thing here in Jamestown. At the riverbank that you see, the river behind me, there's a couple of picnic tables and some benches down the path here, and there are hundreds of ducks. Just, they live there. They hang out there, and it's because people come over to feed them all day long. And so they're just used to getting free handouts, just like, they're basically Democrats that quack. They're sitting around waiting for their free handouts all day, and they know that if they stay in that spot, they got the river that they can swim in all day. They can raise their little ducklings. They're safe. People aren't coming down here to harass them. People aren't coming down here to hunt them, kick them, shoot them, whatever. They're not. It's not like they're out where there's a bunch of hillbillies that'll do things to them. And people are stopping down every day to feed these ducks. And so there's just giant crowds of ducks. And I would be sitting with the ducks right now instead of down here. But there's nobody sitting down there right now with the ducks. But if I were to go down there and sit and pull out this camera and start shooting video, people would just show up. And so I'm just gonna continue this video from here because there's a little bit more tranquility here. But like I said, they're kicking the homeless out of Jamestown, or they're shuffling them around, and I don't really know where the majority of them have set up. But as I was walking through the park here, this is part of the area where they set up their camp. If you look behind me, you might see this concrete retainer wall, and above that wall, there's a railroad track, and there's like a pathway through the woods there, and that entire pathway was packed to the walls with homeless camps. And that's the main area that they came in and cleaned out the other day. And so as I came into the park today, there was probably 30 or 40 homeless people sitting at the entrance to the park, all crowded around the picnic tables and stuff, with big rain canopies and tent. They basically own this park. And it's just basically a cat and mouse game now between them and the city about where they're going to, set up their next camp and what the city's going to do about it. And so, I don't know. I was sitting in Tim Hortons yesterday morning, crazy Tim Hortons, after recording the video, and I was listening to some old group of old people bitching about the homeless like they always do, complaining about it as usual. And they're just hurling around insults, and they're pretty harsh. And, once again, there are times where I'd like to pull my headphones out, start up a conversation with them, and see how they would treat me when I let them know that I'm one of the homeless bums ruining their hellhole of a town. But at the end of the day, I could care less, because my days in this place are coming to an end, and I just have to hold on to reach the finish line here. So I don't know. I'm going to get into some stuff that's going to get this video demonetized today, and 2 days in a row of no monetization and no impressions. I don't know what YouTube's going to do to the overall trend of this channel, but life is short. So I'm just going to say, make sure you spend as much time as possible on the internet arguing with strangers about politics. So at the shelter yesterday, I was part of an interesting conversation that goes right along with a couple of things that I'm talking about. People just can't see what's right in front of their face, and the powers that be hate you. They don't care about you. I'm going to talk to you about a couple of examples of this, and like I said, most likely the video will get demonetized, or some sort of warning graphic's going to show up under the video. So here we go. I'm going to give you 3 examples of what I'm talking about. One of these goes with yesterday's video, and the other 2 are related, and they just go together, but they happened at different periods of time. So the first story, yesterday there was a guy, I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to identify people, but a guy was bragging about how he's been vaccinated 3 times, and he's gotten a whole bunch of booster shots, and now he gets sick all the time. And he was talking about how that never happened to him before. He said, I get COVID all the time now. And the last time I got it, back in the day, I never get sick. But when I do get sick, it would only last for a few days. But the last time I got COVID, that shit lasted over a month before I started to feel better. And he's going on and on about this. And he's got other people joining in about how people should get their vaccine, and on about that. So I finally look across the table and I say, isn't a vaccine supposed to make it so you don't get the disease? And the guy looks at me and he says, I know, right? He's like, that's what I don't understand about this. And so I asked him, I said, do you know people who didn't take the vaccine who are getting sick all the time with this crap? And he says, no. And so I'm like, okay, so you still can't figure this out. At this point, you really can't figure this out. You've been triple vaccinated, boosted, and boosted some more. You can't find a quiet place in Jamestown. What the hell? All right. I can either wait for the helicopter. What is going on? Is he gonna just... It's like he's just hanging out up there. All right, just move along, man. Oh, you cannot find a quiet place to sit in Jamestown, New York. You cannot find it. Saturday and Sunday, you can kind of find a quiet place. That's about it. I really don't know what quiet sounds like anymore. It's been, what did I say? We're on homeless day 98. 98 days of not being able to hear what quiet sounds like. So anyway, before I was interrupted, I was going on about this guy who talking about how people should get vaccinated. He's triple vaccinated, boosted, and boosted again, and now he's getting sick all the time. And like I said, I'm like, do you know anybody who took this vaccine who are sick all the time? And he said no. And I'm like, okay, so you can't figure this out. You can't figure out what's going on. And it's like, at this point, whatever, man. If they can't figure this out for themselves, then there's nothing you can tell them except, well, go get your next booster then. I guess that'll help. So anyway, the second story that I have, at the company that turned into the Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult, where I was fired for not taking the vaccine, way before the scam started, back in the fall of 2019, there was a coworker, and this was in the fall of 2019. I'm going to say it was like October, November 2019. He was telling us a story about how he got his flu shot, and how after he got his flu shot, a few hours later, he got really sick, and he had to go to the ER. And he was really close to the point, or maybe had to be hospitalized for a couple of days. And for the next 3 to 6 months, he was constantly sick, and he had all kinds of problems. And he even told us, he goes, it came right after I got my flu shot. So he was even able to put 2 and 2 together, that I got my flu shot and all of a sudden I got super, super sick to the point I had to go to the ER. I've had nonstop doctor's appointments, and I've had nothing but problems for the last 3 to 6 months. Okay? Now let's fast forward to March of 2020, when they closed down the country. Now this was the very last day that I ever saw these people in person. I drove into the office that day, and for reasons, I'm gonna talk about this story in one of the synchronicity videos, but for today's purposes, let's just say I drove into the office that day. And so I was getting pretty irritated listening to these idiots have conversations about this stuff all day long, and so I finally looked at them. I got up from my desk, and I walked over to the crowd, and first thing I asked was, okay, so now we have to shut down the country every time flu season hits in the fall? And so that started a nice little argument, because in the tech industry, you're surrounded by liberals. You're surrounded by liberals. You basically have to keep your mouth shut if you voted for Donald Trump. You cannot open your mouth. You cannot admit that you went and voted for Donald Trump. You have to keep your mouth shut, because it means that you would lose your job, because you're surrounded by the blue hair liberal, you're surrounded by all these people that claim that you're intolerant, yet they don't tolerate anybody but themselves. So you have to keep your mouth shut or you're going to lose your job. So anyway, when I said that, the conversation got more heated, and at some point they started talking about this vaccine, which hadn't even been invented yet. This was like the first day of the government-sponsored shutdowns of everything. So the guy who got sick from the flu shot, the guy who was sick for 3 to 6 months, hospitalized, going to the doctor, going to the ER for taking his flu shot, he chimes into the conversation, and he starts making fun of the anti-vaxxers. And he starts saying, yeah, when that vaccine comes out, there's going to be all these idiot anti-vaxxers who aren't going to go along with it, and they're going to ruin it for the rest of us. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, aren't you the guy who just got done telling everybody how you took a flu shot and you ended up hospitalized and sick for 3 months after the fact? And now you're making fun of the people who don't want to take a vaccine? And now you're making fun of the so-called anti-vaxxers. Are you fucking kidding me, dude? And so I looked at all of these people and I go, if you can't figure out that this whole thing is a scam, in order to rig the upcoming election, to hide the fact that this creepy old hair-sniffing child molester can't even fill up a high school gym while Donald Trump is running around with overflowing stadiums on the campaign trail, then I don't know what to tell you. All I know right now is that this whole place is going to turn into a cult. And I'm going to get fired from this job for not taking your stupid vaccine that hasn't even come out yet. Oh my fucking God, dude. Hold on a second. All right. I thought the sirens were coming I don't know what's going on now. It's just another day in Jamestown. So anyway, so I said, all I know right now is that this whole place is going to turn into a cult. And I'm going to get fired from this job for not taking your stupid vaccine that hasn't even come out yet. But it's probably going to be rushed out the door without even being tested on a monkey, meaning all of you guys are going to be the lab monkeys testing the vaccine for those companies. Someone got angry with me for saying that, and all I said back to him was, well, tell you what, I'll wait until all of you take the vaccine, and if all of you come out fine, I still won't take it. How's that sound? And so this was the last time that I ever saw these people in person. When I told them that I'm going to get fired for not taking the vaccine, they called me an idiot. They said, I can't believe that you would say something like that. You think a company would fire you over something like that? And that was the attitude that they handed me. And prior to this day, I actually got along really well with all of these people. They were a fun group of people to work with until that day. They were really fun people to hang out with. It was one of the better jobs I had had in my career up to that day. But then it became a ridiculous cult. They were showing up to the Zoom meetings while they work from home alone with their stupid masks on their face. And when the vaccine came out, they're showing up to the Zoom meetings, holding up their vaccine cards to the camera and bragging about how they just went to get their vaccine. And you know how in a normal company, when you have a doctor's appointment or something like that, you might just say to your boss, hey, I need to take Tuesday morning off because I have an appointment. Or you might just, I'll be in later in the day. Or, you'll just make a brief announcement to the people that need to know. But all of a sudden, you would have people waiting until the all-company meeting and they would make an announcement. Excuse me, everybody, but I'm not going to be in the office next Tuesday because I'm going to get vaccinated. And they would be all bragging about it. And they wanted to make sure that the entire company knew. And so I just was like, when I saw this behavior, I knew where everything was going, even though I didn't get fired for another 6 to 8 months. But and this guy, the guy who was sick from taking the flu shot, he started making announcements on the company chat to the entire company that they were going to start having company activities again, like happy hours and stuff like that. But you can only attend if you bring your vaccine card and show proof of vaccination to go to the company-sponsored happy hour. And I'm like, you know what? Go fuck yourself. You people can go fuck yourself. I would never fucking be in a room with you fucking people ever again, believe me. It was disgusting. It was completely disgusting how these people started acting. And so, yeah, a few weeks before Christmas, when they fired me for refusing to take the vaccine, even though I had a remote job, and this was a remote job from the day I was hired in 2019, well before this whole thing started, I told the entire company off in an all-hands Zoom meeting. I told them, good luck figuring out the 12,000 lines of code I just merged into the web application. And, since I'm the only one who knows how any of it works, but, because I'm not joining your ridiculous Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult. And don't bother me for the last few weeks that I'm here because I'm going to be too busy playing my Xbox for the next few weeks. And I don't give a fuck about what you people need. And dropped the fucking mic and walked away from that Zoom meeting. And that was the last time I talked to those people. Except for a few people came out of the woodwork on chat and other means to congratulate me, and they thanked me for standing up to the company. Because it turns out that I wasn't the only one who was sick and tired of all this nonsense and the Jim Jones Kool-Aid cult and all of that stuff, but I was made to think that I was the only outcast in the company. In fact, all these other people said they thought they were the only ones not going along with it until I opened my big mouth in the Zoom meeting. But after I opened my mouth, at least 6 to 10 people reached out to me to thank me for telling the company off because they were all going through the same thing as me. And the cult tried to make it seem like you were the only one who thought the way that you thought. But it turned out there was a whole bunch of people in the company who were on my side with this. And it took me opening my mouth and telling off 100 and something people in a Zoom meeting that that's what it took for that to come out of the woodwork and find out that I wasn't alone. And so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to throw a little bonus story in there. So I'm going to get into like 4 stories today. A friend of mine, her dad hated Donald Trump. Hated him so much that he couldn't wait to go take his COVID vaccine. He could not wait to go take that shot. And 3 hours after he took the shot, he was hospitalized in the ER. They wheeled him to the back room of the hospital and hid him away from his family. And 48 hours later, he was dead. And his daughter, who is the friend of mine, pointed this out to the rest of her family, and her family disowned her for pointing out that their dad just died 48 hours after taking the shot, the same shot that hospitalized him 3 hours after he took the shot. She got disowned by her family for talking about that and for pointing it out, that her own dad was killed by taking this fucking shot. So this is how brainwashed people are in our society right now. And I honestly don't even know if this video is going to make it through the YouTube algorithm and the censorship today. They might be kicking me off for saying all this stuff. But, you know, these people are a bunch of fucking idiots. It's literally like watching a bunch of cows fighting and pushing each other out of the way so that they can be the first one through the door of the slaughterhouse. And when that clamp goes around their neck and the blade slices their throat, they still can't understand that the people that led them to the slaughterhouse hate them. And they did it on purpose in order to kill them and make them sick. I mean, you see all these people dropping dead, falling flat on their face out on the football field, out on the soccer field. All these athletes in their prime who died suddenly all of a sudden. You know, because we've been watching athletes in their prime drop like that our whole lives. And, you know, that's nothing new. But that's the big thing now. Died suddenly has replaced heart attacks and drunk driving as one of the leading causes of death now. And gee, I wonder why that keeps happening. So, you know, I don't care anymore. I don't shed a tear when another one of these vaccine pushers falls off because I don't have anything in common with these people and I don't have any sympathy for them. I don't. I never have. I never will. Like I said, they're a bunch of cows shoving each other out of the way so that they can be first in line to go into the slaughterhouse. And even when the knife comes out, they still can't figure out why that nice farmer would want to do such a thing to them and turn them into hamburgers and baseball gloves. You know, and so that's my vaccine rant for the day. But I'm not done putting that kibosh on my YouTube channel just yet today. I was talking about the World Trade Center yesterday and how I knew someone who died on TWA Flight 800 and how all of that stuff connected together. And when I'm talking about that, of course, YouTube demonetizes you and they start to censor you and they hide your content from people. And so everything went downhill yesterday when I talked about this stuff. So why not do it again today? One of the things that always comes up when I start talking about that subject is how all of your stupid conspiracy theories are so insulting to the victims of that tragedy. I can't tell you how many people I know, because I live in Pittsburgh. It's not that far from New York City, and 3,000 people died in New York City that day. So it's not uncommon for someone to tell me, I knew somebody who died in those towers that day. How dare you? That's so disrespectful to the victims. And if you knew somebody who died there, would it not be more disrespectful to ignore the truth about what happened to them? So let's just twist it around. Let's twist this around. If you're a woman and you were raped by a guy and murdered, and your body was left out in the woods to rot, and let's just say that it was a powerful politician or somebody that did that to you, would your ghost be walking around finding it disrespectful if anyone questioned the guy who did that to you? Would your ghost be angry and feel disrespected if there were people out in the world who knew what happened to you, who knew who your killer was, and wanted to see your killer brought to justice? Or would your ghost want to stick with the story that you hated yourself and you committed suicide by shooting yourself twice in the back of your head after stripping yourself naked and then burying your own body in the woods after you shot yourself? You know, would you ghost feel disrespected if anyone questioned the ridiculous story about how you died instead of going after the truth? Seriously. Like, what if your kids, what if something happened to one of your kids and people knew who the real killer was, but by talking about it and by putting it out there and by trying to go after the truth, you become a conspiracy theorist and you are being disrespectful to that child that was just killed? You know, how would you feel about that? So, anyway, that's all I got to say about that. And I'm going to do a quick time check. Today's video is not going to be very long. It doesn't take a lot of time to get kicked off of YouTube these days. But that's really all I wanted to talk about today. You know, how disrespectful is it to not go after the truth about what happened to those people? Is it more disrespectful to find the truth about what happened to those people? Or is it disrespectful to go against the government cover-up? You know, if you are related, or if your dad died in the World Trade Center, is it disrespectful to your dad to go after the truth about the people that did that to your dad? Or was it more respectful to your dad to just let it go and let the people that did that to your dad get away with it and continue living, you know, a life of luxury and a life of freedom, when they should be rotting in prison for the rest of their lives, or worse? So I'm just going to leave it out there. I'm going to leave it at that. Obviously, I'm not going to get any views on today's video. Pretty much going to put the kibosh on metrics for the week on this channel. But I hope you enjoyed what I had to say today. And I hope that whatever you're working on today, whatever you're trying to get accomplished, I hope that you're able to get those things done. And I hope that God's on your side. And if you do see coincidences and things that you just can't explain, consider that it might be a message from God trying to tell you something. I'm just going to let it go at that. I hope y'all have a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Maybe. Peace out. I'm also on Rumble, so if you don't see the videos popping up on YouTube and the channel disappears, you're going to have to go check it out on Rumble. The same screen name, Redeeming Light, on rumble.com. Peace.